Namo Amida Butsu. Thanks for dropping by. If you're new to this channel or this topic, please check out my introductory video. This is a series of video diaries I'm doing about my own exploration into this path. So I really struggled today with, I put aside all my other beliefs and they've been crowding back in. As I've shared before, I've studied lots of different things before finding my way to Jodo Shinshu, and I really am just convinced that this path of humility and faith and entrusting is really my path and the path for me, but where I'm just struggling with is Amida the one to whom I'm going to entrust myself? So, the other piece is seeing, is there room for any of my other beliefs? I was just sitting with the idea of, I personally don't, this is really a tangent, but I'll keep it really brief, is I really don't think Jesus thought that he was God. I don't, that's the doctrine of the Trinity. I think that was added on by people. I was kind of sitting with the idea of, well, was Jesus talking about Amitabha? Was Jesus talking about the Heavenly Father, Amitabha, and is the kingdom of heaven the Pure Land? I was just sitting with ideas like that, and I had kind of a distressing conversation. I spoke with someone who is says that they, are a person of Shinjin, that they have attained clear and settled Shinjin, and they really kind of flipped out when I said that. That they said that you can't think that way, and there's not. Yeah, just it was kind of like, you know, only Buddhism, everything else, and I see the value to that, but kind of their reaction was, they really reacted intensely, and that was a little like what's going on here? Like it's one thing to disagree, and but they got really upset, um, and then just had some inaccurate views about the teachings of Christ. Which before Jodo Shinshu, I'd say that's what I put, maybe that and certain aspects of Hinduism is what I put the most time into, and so it was a little, yeah, it was definitely shaking, faith shaking for me. But then the other thing is, this path isn't about relying on other people, relying on someone who has Shinjin. This path is about me acquiring Shinjin. So, but regardless, it was a little, it's just intriguing. This whole path is about trust, right? And the question is, who and what do I trust? Do I trust another person? Do I trust Shinren and Renyo? Do I trust Amitabh? There's, yeah. So and I'm taking time off from studying. I feel like I've studied enough. Um, but as I say that, I'm like, wow, I would love to just read Paul Roberts' book again and just do what I did, which is put all my other ideas aside. And that was that's what I said I was going to try and do for 40 days. And for me, it's a lot harder than I thought. The first 2 weeks, very easy. That has some appeal to it. I was very happy during that period and really feeling a deep connection to Amida. And it wasn't so much, and so what started the other beliefs to creep back in is just life got really stressful, and those things have been things that have helped me and sustained me. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at today. And thank you so much for dropping by. Namo Amida Butsu. I think the last thing is what I've become aware of is, um, there's different degrees to which you can. So of course I just think of Paul Roberts, who I never met personally, but watched his videos and read his book. I think I've read it 6 times now. I feel a pretty deep connection with him. At a certain point, Paul became a Buddhist and just accepted the the Buddhist teachings and scriptures as authoritative. So a lot of the trouble that I'm facing, um, someone who does that, they wouldn't face. Um, so that has some appeal. Definitely has some appeal. Um, but so it raises the question of, well, what's a spiritual path and what's a religion? What is, in this conversation with this person of Shinjin, it was just like there were all these things that I had to believe to walk this path, at least according to him. Um, and then I just think of Shinrin and Renyo, who would just talk to peasants, and within a very, very illiterate, uneducated people, within a very short time, they would come to Shinjin, and it's not like they checked in. What does this person believe? And they. But the other thing is, such people were raised in a Buddhist country and probably didn't have, you know, 25 years of studying everything, from Christianity to the far out New Age stuff. So, but it does have me questioning, what are the beliefs that are necessary for this path? You know, what and what beliefs can block you from this path? And I don't have, each person will probably have different answers to that question. Um, but it does raise the question of who and what has authority. For a Christian, a certain type of Christian, the Bible has authority. It's unquestionable. It's true. They believe it, even though they can't verify it. And so that's what I'm struggling. Well, not so much, things like karma, reincarnation, the six realms. Um, I didn't have any trouble just taking on those beliefs. The reality of Amida Buddha, the reality of the Pure Land, that I had a little trouble, but I've come to the place where those things I can't prove them, but I really do believe they're true. That Amida could just lift me out of samsara. That was once I accepted the belief in Amida, that was, and take me to the Pure Land, that was actually quite easy for me. I've really explored the concept of grace, not in the Buddhist concept, Buddhist tradition, but that wasn't so hard for me. So those basic ideas, and the idea that I can't liberate myself, that was the easiest. There's probably still some subconscious sort of clingings to self-power. Fundamentally, I'm like, yes, that is true. So that I didn't really struggle with. I had a little bit of struggle with the reality of Amida and a little bit of struggle with the reality of the Pure Land, but not anymore. Now I'm struggling with, ideas such as, only Buddhist teachings have the absolute truth, and only the Buddha was fully enlightened, and all of the teachers are just partially enlightened, and that Amida is the only instrument of grace that can lead me to full deliverance. So I'm not saying those things aren't true, and I'm not saying I don't, I've started to believe them to a certain extent. That's what this exploration has been about. Taking on those beliefs, saying yes to them, and then really looking for the deep yes. um, but I don't have that deep yes to Amida is the only means of salvation, and um, only the Buddha. The Buddha is the only fully enlightened being to ever walk on this planet, and um, yeah. So I guess that's where that's what I'm looking at and struggling with right now. And the beautiful thing is, I'm getting to the place of like, hey, I'm not going to be able to figure it out. So this is going to have to come from within me. It's not going to work to yeah, to try and figure this out. So that's my status report. And thank you. Namo Amida Butsu.